Please welcome to the stage, Caitlin McGarvey.
Hi. It's great to be here with you all. I spent the night in the Atlanta airport last night due to a canceled flight, so this is much more pleasant. This is much better. So thank you for having me here. My name is Caitlin McGarvey. I work at Vision Fund International, which is an NGO called World Vision's microfinance subsidiary. So it's great to be here. We're working on a global grant with Rotary, and I'm excited to share a bit about that. Before I get started, I want to thank Brett for inviting me here. I met Brett in Singapore, and that was my first international Rotary conference. And I was blown away by the amount of people that were there and the diversity and the richness of the conversation and the ideas and the thoughts. And so it was such a powerful experience to be there. It felt like the whole world was in, one massive ballroom. And so I think this is an incredible network. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I also want to thank you because I'm a former Peace Fellow. I was in Uppsala, Sweden. From 2017 to 2019 doing my Master's in Peace and Conflict Studies with an emphasis on water conflict and climate-related conflict. So thank you. I know that this district is very fervent supporters of the fellowship, and so I can tell you that it has a lasting impact. The connections that we build during those fellowships have a lasting impact, and I continue to partner and work with co-fellows that I met in that program who now work at other organizations. So thank you so much for that opportunity. As part of an NGO, here's my clicker. As part of an NGO, I spend a lot of time on the road, a lot of time traveling around the world. Much of my work is focused in sub-Saharan Africa. And another reason I want to thank you is because no matter how rural we are, how far out we are, there is always a Rotary wheel somewhere. And it's just tremendous to see the impact that Rotary has. And I think when I'm in the field and I'm out in those rural communities and I see the work that our teams are doing with the local community, and then I see side by side Rotary doing work with the local community as well, it just feels like such potential for a rich partnership. And I'm really grateful because our two organizations have decided to partner on several global grants. Many of them have been focused on WASH, some have been focused on agriculture, climate resiliency. But right now, we are launching the first global grant focused on economic development. So we're doing this with Rotary's RANGSED committee, I don't want to mess it up, but the Rotary Action Group for Community and Economic Development. So it's a really exciting thing. It's what I'm here to talk to you about, and I hope that it's something that you find exciting. So this partnership is based on a model that we at World Vision and Vision Fund have called FAST. And FAST stands for Finance Accelerating Savings Group Transformation. I'm guessing a lot of you have been to the field to see Rotary's work. Have any of you ever encountered a savings group, sometimes called a Village Savings and Loan Association? Excellent. We got a few. I can't really see. Okay, we got a few. Excellent. So I want to introduce what that concept is first, and then I'll go into the model and the grant. I am also conscious of my time. Okay, so this woman in the front and center, her name is Grace, and behind her you can see 4 clusters of women. Grace is a community advocate, community volunteer at World Vision, and her job is to help educate women on starting savings groups. And what a savings group is it's a community group. It's based on an indigenous model in Africa where women were already coming together to support each other through childbirth and helping each other when their children were sick. And what these women were already doing was coming together and saving small amounts of money, maybe 10 cents a week, each woman putting in 10 cents a week. So when one of their children had malaria, they could then go pay for medicine for that woman's child. So you had this rich, rich network of women coming together. And what a lot of NGOs said, well, the women know what they need. They're clearly articulating that they need group savings. They're clearly articulating they need community cohesion. They need a chance to come together for economic purposes, for well-being of the community itself. So let's tap into that, and let's see if they're interested in also getting financial literacy support and business development support. So hopefully, rather than saving 10 cents a week, they can each save $1 a week, up to $5 a week or more, right? So that's the goal. So savings groups come together, and World Vision provides them with financial literacy training, business development training, but does not put anything else into it. It is community-led, and each savings group gets to decide how they manage those funds themselves, how they distribute it. And each group has a community fund, which are those funds that are donated for either elders in the community, orphans, or to help each other with funeral costs or medical costs. And they have a separate pile of funds, which then goes out for loan capital to women who want to start their businesses. So this is a really exciting thing for me. Now, the reason I'm here to talk to you is because savings groups, like I said, are saving small amounts of money, and so they sit in one avenue of development. And then, have any of you heard of microfinance? Yes, okay, so then microfinance sits over here. And there's this gap in the middle. How do we get the ultra poor people who are still living in absolute poverty up to the state where they can qualify for a microfinance loan? Because even though our perception of people receiving microfinance loans is that they're poor, they're not at absolute poverty. They are not the extreme poor, but these women are. So at Vision Fund, what we developed was a model called Finance Accelerating Savings Group Transformation, where we wanted to accelerate the number of women who are benefiting in these savings groups in a given year and accelerate how much they could invest into their businesses. And so we decided to look at them as a loan client. Right, these women on their own, Grace on her own, she would not qualify for a loan. She probably does not have a formal ID. She doesn't have any collateral to put down. She doesn't have any formal history of a documented business management plan. She doesn't have financial sheets. So no microfinance institution would look at her as a viable client. Also, the loan size she would be looking at is too small to make it operationally efficient for microfinance to go all the way to her and give her a loan. So we said, well, if traditional microfinance may not work in this case, we need to figure out how to make it work, because we know 80% of the global poor live in rural communities. And if that's not where microfinance institutions are, and that's where the poor are, we need to figure out how to bridge these groups, right? Bridge the poor with microfinance. The other thing we know is that, and I have some statistics here, there's 750 million unbanked women in the world. And there's, according to the World Economic Forum, a 1.7 trillion finance gap for women entrepreneurs across the globe, right? So I'll talk a lot about women. These groups are not exclusively about women, but they started with women. They continue to be a support network for women, and we have designed this model to focus on women's economic empowerment, because you can't close the poverty gap without reaching out to women. So just a bit here about the differences between traditional microfinance and what FAST is. Traditional microfinance tends to be in urban or peri-urban areas, and part of that is the density of people in those areas. So you could have a brick and mortar branch right here. People will just come to you all day because you have a highly dense community around you. People talk, people are already moving around the city, they come to you. So your staff don't need to do a lot of work out and about. The other thing is people in peri-urban and urban environments tend to be a little bit higher on the economic ladder. A couple other things is most microfinance looks at the individual. So what is this individual capable of? What does this individual have a track record of doing already? How can we enhance what this individual is doing? And then, whether or not we like it, most microfinance is profit-driven. And what we said is we need to switch this narrative. We want to be impact-driven rather than profit-driven. We don't care if we're making margins on FAST. We want to make sure that we're helping communities lift themselves out of poverty quicker than is currently happening. So we go more rural, we focus on digital technology in order to do that, and a couple other things that make that operational. And those things are these four elements. So we do loans to mature groups. So the way this partnership works is World Vision spends 2 years training the groups in financial literacy, documenting their growth, documenting how much they're saving, documenting how much they're lending, the types of businesses that they're doing, and then we consider that mature and we come in and we lend into the group. Now our fast loans are up to $1,500 and they go into the group box, and we don't decide who in the group gets it. So think of it as the flowers in the middle of your table. Your group, your table would choose who gets which flowers and how many. And it's all dependent on your own ideas and what the group seems valuable, right? So if you're at a table and you're sitting next to someone who you know is a bad cook, and they say, I want that loan so that I can open a bakery, you say, no, that's not a good business plan. You have terrible cooking. How about you rethink it and come back with a different proposition? So rather than the outsiders trying to inform and direct what's happening, we leave it to the group, the indigenous model that's already been working for, frankly, generations and generations. The other thing is, unlike traditional microfinance, we don't have loan officers. We have something called field officers. And part of this, and I really like this, so I might stick on this a little bit, so bear with me, but I really like the fact that we have field officers, because what happens in a lot of countries is the regulatory commissions and the national banks require microfinance institutions that are giving out loans to use a loan officer. And most of the criteria for a loan officer is that they have at least a bachelor's in some type of financial or business education, oftentimes accounting. And when you're in these rural areas, the communities don't have access to that education, right? And in many of the countries we work, most of the people getting that education are men. And so when we first piloted this project, what we found was these young men were coming from the capital cities and their polished university degrees, and then trying to connect with the savings group women, whose average age is 42, and the average savings group woman is a mother of 4. And there was a disconnect. And so the women weren't opening up, they weren't seeking advice. The young male loan officers were not finding value in their work. They wanted something more competitive, something more stimulating for them. So we said, let's change the role, right? We're giving the loan to the group. It's not a traditional loan. Let's call it field officer. And what we do is we hire former World Vision volunteers or other people who are qualified. We hire them and put them through a rigorous field officer training so that they can then provide the fast loans to the groups. Now, this does not require a high school education, let alone a college education. We do not need them. We don't need our field officers to have degrees. And so this opens it up to a lot of opportunities for people that otherwise have never had any type of regular paycheck or formal employment. The other thing that the other benefit of this is these people are often called teachers in the community. When I go with them and ride to one savings group to another, the groups welcome them by saying professor, teacher, mentor. So it's just beautiful to see the way that these people who are from the communities they're serving, they know the local customs, they know the local dialect, and they're now being revered as leaders in the community, and many of them are women. It's just an incredible way to see women's empowerment rise and see women as trainers in the community. Digital solutions, this was a COVID innovation. We couldn't get out and travel, so we needed to switch over to mobile money, an app-based system to bring people on board. It's absolutely incredible to see the field officers out there, some, like I said, who never went to high school, and yet they're using these mobile applications as if they're fluent in them. The other thing that's really exciting to see is many of the savings groups, as I said, the average age is 42. Like here, different generations have different technical capacities and intelligences and skill sets. So what it's done is it's actually allowed those savings groups to open to younger women in the communities, younger youth, and bring the youth in. So you now have multi-generational units working together, and the youth are training the elder women how to use the apps and the digital training and all of that. So that's been really cool. And then finally, embedded education. So as we work, our field officers, they train each group on a different curriculum every single month. So every year, the savings groups are going through 12 new curriculums and learnings to help increase and grow their business knowledge, but also it reinforces other programming like WASH. So we have WASH trainings, we have maternal health care trainings, we have child nutrition trainings. So we work with World Vision to develop those and deploy those. And now we're also working with Rotary. So in Uganda, the project I'm going to talk about, Rotary is also helping us develop some of those curriculums based on the local involvement that they've had in the communities that we're co-serving. So that's been really excellent, and we have local business people from maybe, well, in our case, Kampala, going out and helping develop the business development trainings and then deploying them to the savings groups alongside the staff. So it's a really, really wonderful opportunity. I'm running out of time, so I will say, one thing to know about this program is this was not just thought up in a room. We piloted this for 2 years. Actually, our pilot started in Uganda, which you'll find out the global grant is based in Uganda. And we spent time studying, and we hired external evaluators to evaluate the program. And what we found is we are serving a population that is underserved, so we are filling a gap in the market. These people don't have other opportunities, so we are their linkage to those more formal opportunities that I talked about in the beginning. And it's having positive benefit, one, on business development for these women, and some men, and also it translates to child well-being. We're seeing improvements in child health care because people have more money to buy medicines. We're seeing improvements in child education. We're seeing improvements in child nutrition, and also in safety from natural disasters as homes are getting to be more sturdy with the profits that these people are making. So it's quite exciting. And this is the global grant that is enabling us to scale this work even further in Uganda. So again, this is a hybrid partnership between World Vision, Vision Fund, and Rotary International. Here's the details of the grant. We're working in 3 communities in Uganda. Those communities were co-selected with the Kampala Rotary Club, World Vision, and Vision Fund. And so those communities, what we did in the community assessments, we know they have the right density of savings groups. We know the savings groups have the right level of maturity. We know Rotary has people who can easily travel there to help do some of the trainings. And we know that it's a place that both World Vision and Vision Fund see as strategic locations to work. So it's a very exciting thing. We're starting with those 3 countries. The budget is $780,000, though I heard we actually over fundraised on the Rotary side, so I think it's the max at $800,000 right now, which is very exciting. And so this is, a wonderful partnership. So you can see the numbers. This is huge. 540 savings groups are the target, with an average of 22 members per savings group. We're looking at almost 12,000 direct beneficiaries and almost 60,000 indirect beneficiaries. So it sounds like a lot of money. 800,000 sounds like a lot. But when you look at this, the impact is, you're getting a ton of impact for minimal funding when you look at it cost per beneficiary. The other thing I should note with this partnership is Rotary puts forward 50% of the funding. So Rotary is putting forward 400,000, and then World Vision and World Vision donors are matching it with an additional 400,000. So that's pulling together the 800,000. So again, it's partnership not just in the field, but partnership on the funding side. Here you can see a little bit about the roles. I think I've touched on this, but it's just, again, really good to grow or to benefit from the knowledge both of World Vision and Vision Fund, but also Rotary and the Rotarians who have been in these communities doing other types of service projects and building the relationships with the communities. So the way that we did the fundraising for this is we broke it out into $30,000 increments and asked clubs to sponsor what we call a starter kit. And what this starter kit does is it funds our field officer. You can see her in the middle on her motorbike. It funds her motorbike training, her financial literacy training, and then the loan capital for 30 groups. So the reason we use these numbers, one, we use a motorbike because these are very, very rural groups. It can take several hours to get from one group to the next by walking. So you want a motorbike so our field officers aren't out there walking. We need to put funding towards the motorbikes because women, one, can't in the countries that we work tend to be a little bit smaller than men, and most motorbikes are made for men in these countries. So we had to get custom-made motorbikes for the women. And then two, we have to train them how to ride motorcycles, because in many of the countries we work, it's the men who are driving the motorcycles typically. So we do that motorcycle training, make sure that they're safe, and make sure they're confident in what they're doing. And then, like I said, we provide the loan capital for the first 30 groups that she'll serve. And the reason we do 30 groups is because each field officer serves a minimum of 30 groups in order to be self-sustaining. So what that means is after 11 to 14 months, in Uganda it's 11 months, of her serving 30 groups, she then becomes self-sustainable because those groups are making enough money. They're repaying a 3% interest loan division fund so that she can expand her reach, serve more groups, and her salary is then self-paying. And then any additional returns on that interest go to providing loans to new groups that haven't been reached yet. So that's why 30 is a key number there. These are what the reports look like. So any club who supported it, you get a write-up. It's custom, it's unique. So each club is sponsoring a different field officer, a different person, and their portfolio. So you get a write-up about the person and their portfolio, and then you get a link to the ArcGIS map. I'm hoping this QR code works because this is a link to one of them. You can click it and you can navigate around the ArcGIS map of one of the field officers. Because everything's digital, every time the field officer goes to a community, one for safety and two for verification, she has to take a picture of that group. And that verifies that she's visiting them as often as she's supposed to. It verifies that it is the right group. It is verifying that the same picture is not being used over and over. But it also, because we do have women on motorbikes in rural communities, verifies she's getting to her destination safely. So if you have your phone, feel free to pull up your photo app. This should prompt a link, and then you can maneuver. And what you should see on the link is a map, and then there's different colored diamonds. If you click those diamonds, you'll get input into you can sort of see a diagram over here, but you get a couple numbers. One, the number of people in the savings group. Two, how many are women, how many children are supported, the size of the loan they got, and a couple other metrics. And when you click the more info, you get a picture of the group. So that's the picture the field officer took most recently. So it's a great way of connecting Rotary clubs in the US or Europe or Asia or wherever else directly to the field and the work that's being impacted. And like I said, each club that supported this project is getting their own starter kit, meaning they're supporting their own field officer and their own 30 groups. Where we are today, the project is funded, the global grant has been submitted, and we are just waiting for the review. I heard yesterday we should get the response within the next week or so. And what you can see here is this is in Kampala. We already had the startup workshop with the local Kampala club and the Vision Fund team and World Vision team. And then you see a man in the middle, a white guy. His name is Kim. He is a Rotarian from the US, and he has worked for World Vision and is also very involved in Rotary. So he went to sort of monitor and review the startup workshop. So it's exciting, it's underway, and I hope a year from now we have the chance to come back and give you some reporting and say, this is how it's doing, these are the people who've been impacted, and here's some of their stories. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I hope you find me if you have any questions. This is something I'm very excited to talk about. So thank you.
Yeah. Not sure if you know, we are a participant in the global grant. So sometime next year, or in the next couple months, watch your email box, because you will have a QR code just like this for District 7570, so you know exactly how your district foundation dollars are going to impact these women in Uganda. And we're going to put a face with that dollar. And we're doing a $30,000 grant with the match from the World Fund. So thank you. These ladies are going to be appreciative,
yes.
And we're going to know exactly who we're helping.
Yes,
Caitlin,
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. So we'll let you know when the global grant's been approved, hopefully in the next week or two, and we'll get to work.
So Caitlin, thank you for coming across to the East Coast to talk to us about this, share this information. You know what a Paul Harris Fellow is. You probably already won, but I got one anyway.
Thank you so much.
I want to honor you with the Paul Harris Fellow.
That's special. Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
is the first one.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Good,
thank
good.
you. Thank you so much, Brett.